Hey everyone, it's Maydad here from YNV Health and Wellness, and tonight we've got a great Zoom session for you. I'm joined with the one and only Nadia Barkos, as usual, and we've also got a special guest here, a good friend by the name of Brendan Harris. Now, the topic we're going to be discussing is the power of unlock, the true power of unlocked. I believe I've said that right, isn't it, Brendan?
Yep, that's it.
How are you, Brendan? And it's
I'm
good to
really
see
good.
you here.
Oh, thanks. Good to see you too. Good to be here.
Awesome. Brendan's a good friend that I met along the way doing different courses when we were studying behavioral science, and he's a life coach. So great to have you here, Brendan, and being on this Zoom tonight. I've got a couple of questions that I wanted to ask you, and perhaps you could share a little bit about your journey as a life coach and obviously the great work that you do and the people that you work with. But first of all, how's your day been and what have you been up to?
Yeah, it's been a really good day. Nothing too eventful today. Just yeah, just work, a little bit of housework and gym stuff, and now I get to be here with you. So that's about it.
That's cool. Awesome. I always think that it's really great to get a gym session in or a good swim or something in through the day. It's just so healthy, you know. I mean, I've been talking to Nadia and other people today about energy magnetic fields and all the other stuff that relates to us having this energy in us. But let's just start with me asking you the first question. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you doing this great program that we've all been hearing about that is called the True Power to Unlock.
Mm. Um, well, I guess like you might have heard that it's often our voids that drive our values. So for me, it was really a lack of understanding of what made people tick and what made me tick. So I guess kind of I mean the journey just to start briefly kind of started when I was about 11 or 12 and I sort of it's a young age but I was already having some major issues major like behavioral and emotional issues a lot of sort of I was in trouble a lot. I was depressed an awful lot. I didn't really have much of a sense of mission. My confidence was shot. Hence why I've just been focused on confidence and how to develop it, because that was a huge weak point for me. Um, yeah, I can just think back to those days and then looking at the experts or whatever that would be around or the adults, and it didn't seem like anyone had advice or anything that would really was helping, seemed to help me in a big way or helped a lot of the people around me in a big way. I had, like mental health issues back then, even like depression and suicidal sort of ideology and then sometimes actions. So at age 13, that is. And so there was a huge void there. And yeah, I just started to realize that the help that was given to me wasn't substantial, and I seen it wasn't helping other people that much either. Then yeah, I guess fast forward to like 15, 16, and parents splitting up and um, also sort of being put it the nice way, asked to leave home, and so I started working full time, and I was just that let's say my mental health declined there, and then I started to try to change the way I felt a lot with like drugs and alcohol, and um, yeah, it just was going nowhere fast. I didn't have direction or anything, but I finally kind of reached a point where I was like, well, if no one around me seems to have good advice or knows how to help me, then it's up to me. And that was huge. That was taking that responsibility at probably around age 17 was a real big turning point for me when I'm like, well, you know what? I've it's all up to me, That was huge. Um, and then
That's it's funny how you say that age 17. I've never told Nadia that, but from the age of about 13 to about 17, I was so troubled. I was so troubled in doing what I was doing that I got to the point where I stopped doing stuff with anybody else and I was just doing it by myself. And it made me feel validated. But and when I hear people like yourself, Brendan, talk about that point of their life, I think that a lot of males, I'm not speaking on behalf of females because I'm not, but a lot of young boys go through that that stage. But keep sharing. I'm really resonating with what you're saying.
Yeah, just to touch on that point, yeah, I feel that a lot. I think females are a little bit better at supporting each other in those times, and men, we're developing into young men, and we don't want to ask for help as much, or your friends are more likely to I don't know, tease you in a way that maybe they're trying to make it tougher, but they're not knowing how to have the conversations that can be literally life changing at that point. Um, but
And
yeah,
they think you're a sissy or something like that. At that
yeah,
age, I think when you open up that way, oh, he's a little bit soft or something like that. I guess today it might be a little bit different, but I know when I was growing up, and probably you can relate to this. Most of what you're sharing, if we'd opened up to somebody and talked to them about it, they'd say, "Oh, Brendan, mate, that's a sissy." But really, you just wanted someone to talk to, and
yeah. Yeah, or they'd say, well, that's all around me. I think they might say, oh, that's just life. Like, what do you want, man? It's just the way it is. It sucks.
it is, yeah.
Um, and then I think that was the turning point, and then the bigger turning point was actually when I fell in love for the first time. Yeah, I was like wasn't expecting it. I didn't really. I guess I didn't really, know what that really felt like. And then, yeah, age 19, fell in love for the first time. Started spending all your spare time together, and we started living together. And it's like, okay, we're gonna do life together. Like a year or so on, um, and with the thought of like having a family and being a husband or provider, that really didn't just put it like a rocket up my ass, but it got me outside of myself. So one, it made it a must. Like I must start to figure this out. I must start to figure out life, the inner game, and the outer game. So not just how to achieve, but like how do I become like the person I want to be? How do I feel the way I want to feel? Um, and yeah, it wasn't just a rocket up my ass. It was like,
A wake up call or something of that nature.
yeah, because it was like I was for me, it was like I refused to have it be the same for my kids. Like I want to change things drastically. Um, but the feeling it took me a while to really get the lesson, but the more you get outside of yourself and the more you love and care about other people and things, it actually gives you more power. You literally might sound woo-woo to some people perhaps, but you actually vibrate at a higher level and you get
Mm.
higher insights. That's one of the beautiful things about humans. The more we tend to care about other people, the more we actually sort of elevate ourselves. Yeah, I don't know if you've experienced that kind of thing too.
Yeah, I have, especially since becoming a dad now. As I was saying, consistently, regularly, every week, just about. It could be when I'm driving my car, it could be when I'm here watching TV, it could be when I'm in the park. And I have these conversations with either my wife or my kids, and we talk about this. We have these intimate conversations out of nowhere. They just come out of nowhere, and they know, and I know that we are all molding each other to be the best family we can be. And I know we're far off, but we're doing our best to give the best of ourselves to each other. And I think that's important. When you're mindful of that, I guess you're halfway there. But let me ask you something, Brendan. I know I've been watching some of the stuff that you've been sharing on your Instagram and Facebook and social media and that. And I haven't met you in person when we did a couple of courses together and that. I know the great person that you are. What got you into this great work that you do?
Mm.
What really pushed you? I know you talked about your past. Was there a defining moment that said, you know what, this is what I want to do, and I want to become a life coach, and this is why I want to become a life coach? Was there a defining moment?
Um, yeah, so from that moment when I kind of left off, then I started to work on myself, and it was just at the start it was just books, but I was going through it like as personal development stuff was like I remember one of the first ones was like Brian Tracy, Maximum Achievement, and if you're not familiar, his story I guess wasn't that dissimilar to my own. He kind of he kind of didn't. Let's say he didn't put a lot of effort into that, and he sort of rang a run with the not so good crowd. And then he did like laboring jobs, he did other stuff, but then he started to want to make himself better. So, and then he did become quite successful. And back then, I kind of thought, honestly, I thought more than anything, money was going to handle all my problems. So, I mean, growing up, there was sometimes we spent in, like, government assisted housing. I remember mum budgeting every dollar. I remember, feeling like embarrassed to almost ask for things because you didn't want to stress them sometimes. So there was a big sort of, burned into me that not from them, but just somehow got into me that if I made enough money, I could solve sort of everyone's problems. um, so I started to read his book and just go through it. And I believe in modeling, even back then, I guess subconsciously, I was like, here's a guy who started from similar to me, has what I want. Now I'm just gonna like go through and I'm gonna, whatever he says, I'm gonna do it. Like I didn't just intellectually go, oh, that sounds like a good idea. I did every single exercise, I did it thoroughly. So I started to get, some results from that and other bits and pieces. And I started to feel a lot better. I started to like working out, eating better, and other people started to notice that, what's gotten into you. Yeah, how come you think this way now? How come you're so positive? How come you're ambitious? How come, you're just like always on the go, making things happen? As opposed to where I used to be, which was needing, let's say alcohol or something to make myself feel good. I didn't have it going on at all, and I was very much not goal orientated. But yeah, so they started asking questions, and little by little, I would share what I'd learned and what was working for me. And every now and then, someone was actually genuinely interested and would implement the thing that I had taught them that I got from someone else. And that feeling really lit me up, to see somebody else, like to know that the same feeling that I was having when I was getting this information was they were getting it when I was passing it on. That was really lit me up. And then actually, I started to feel a sense of duty because, yeah, like, people that had taken time to create a course or write a book or whatever had helped me so much. And I was like, where would I be if they didn't take that time and effort? So now I have these different information and experiences that can help people. Well, like it's almost like who am I not to pass that on? It would feel selfish
Yeah,
not to.
that's incredible, Brendan. It's a beautiful share. I kind of try and go through it every day myself, and I think since studying behavioral science, one thing unconsciously, I've just become more aware of things going around me, of things that have been said around me, and been able to be a little bit, not so much analytical, but being able to weigh them up and take them away and say, wow, that's a good gold nugget. I'm going to take that away. Today I was with a real estate and I was listening to her talk about a few different things, and then the builder came along. I was speaking to him and I was able to listen, and I was able to take these little nuggets. And I've noticed it's not just with work or just could be somebody in the street that you might see, or something you hear on TV, or a little post that comes on social media or something that you can take, and before you know it, you're using it to implement in your life. But no, I totally resonate with all that you're saying, Brendan. Um, I know that we all have like different traits with what we assign to leadership and all that, and what great leaders are, Brendan. And I know that after in the past when I've spoken to you, we've spoken about leadership skills and character building and confidence and strength building. And then I want to ask you, what are some of the important things that you feel are needed to build confidence and strength and character in a person to create good leadership skills? Because
Yeah,
I know you do a lot of that work with people and you've experienced some of the stuff that you shared. Maybe perhaps our viewers would be interested in listening to what your view on that is.
yeah. For me, like if I give you like the foundation, I guess, of what makes up, say, confidence, for example. Well, let's just pause on confidence for a second, right? A lot of people, um, I don't know, don't quite get this distinction I'm about to share, and that is that confidence and competence are two different things. You have a competency, like let's say we use boxing as example, right? So you would have a certain amount of, or you look at someone's career when they coming, they have the competency, they have the skills, right? But I remember like when I studied Mike Tyson a little bit, and he was sort of sharing a little bit about how they got to try to build a fighter's confidence up, get him the right fights at the start to get the
Yes.
confidence level right. Because if the confidence gets shot, he won't tap into that competence.
No, because you've got to build them up slowly. It's like anything, like a child learning to ride a bike with training wheels. But yeah, keep going.
But the thing is, the skill level, if his confidence gets shot, it's not like his skills went away. They didn't disappear. But once his confidence is gone, he can't access them until he gets the confidence back. So if you, again, somebody like Tony Robbins, if you look at the work he's done with professional athletes, lots of times it's exactly that. For some reason, their confidence is gone, their psychology is suffering, but they're still, all the skill is within them. He doesn't give them any skill, but he goes in there and then helps them access that state that they get in when they're at their best, and then really goes deep on it, hammers home, so they get like, so they understand exactly what it is, like how they're using their body. Like there's sort of three parts to this, and it's called a triad. It's physiology. So what are you doing with your body? How are you breathing? Your posture, like your shoulders, your body movements. And then the other one is your focus. What are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the outcome you want? Are you focusing on going good, going bad? Are you focusing on, how grateful you are for the experience, or you're focusing on how you're tired of doing this crap, you don't want to do it anymore. And then the other part is language and meaning. So language is just like what's the dialogue you're having inside. So what's like not just the words, but also the um, is it what is the pace of the words? Are you thinking like, are you talking to yourself in a way that's like, you know, slow and or demeaning, or is it like faster and more excited? You learn to hack that. When I'm at my best confident state before I go into the ring, how do I feel? What am I doing? Where are my shoulders? How's my breathing? Learn to really hack that and zone in on it. And then what am I focusing on? Am I focusing on the outcome? Am I so present? Am I zen? It's going to be a little bit different for everybody, right? For their maximum.
Sure.
And then, of course, what's the language? What's the dialogue going in my head? Is it like this guy doesn't stand a chance? Why'd he show up? Or is it like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready? It's not going to be that.
Yes.
So you can dial in, and you get to knowing what something isn't is just as valuable as knowing what it is. So like, you know when you're off the track, and you can course correct. And then the meaning you give stuff as well, like language and meaning. So if what's the meaning you give any experience shapes how you feel about it. Again, like if something goes wrong or whatever, it doesn't go the way you thought, do you give it a meaning that's, oh crap, oh no, or do you say like, it's expected, it's expected, and rolling with the punches. And I'm just using fighting as a bit of a metaphor.
Yeah,
You're a
sure.
boxer, but this is the same thing. If you're going into a meeting, or approaching someone on a first date or whatever, you could learn to find your individual confidence strategy. Um, yeah.
You know, just not so long ago, I spoke to somebody who talked about an experiment they did with 100 best tennis players in the whole world, and they wanted to distinguish the difference between the top 10 and the other 90 that weren't at top 10. And they did this. They found out that in all of them, they all train as hard. They all have the same fitness level, the strength level. They hit the ball as hard. They pretty much had similar techniques and all that sort of stuff. So they were all world class. But the difference between the top 10 and the other 90 that were below them was the mindset, was the way they talk to themselves in their mind. So we talk about submodalities and internal representation, the way you picture the world, but how you picture yourself has a lot to do with the way how the world perceives you, what you want from the world. I know with all the moments that I was able to be successful, I'd already visualized myself throwing my arms in the air before I got the gold medal put around my neck. I already, in aerobics, and I could already see myself. I'd visualized myself. I'd mapped the routine. I'd mapped the day. I'd mapped the whole experience. I ran through the whole experience. I've written it down, and I've been over it through role play. That when I was on the stage, I was able to choreograph my mannerisms, my expressions, my projection. I'd look at the head judge and smile. I'd look at the Reebok judge and I'd take a wink, And I think because I'd rehearsed it so much, and I think it's not just about me, it's about the same as, I guess, what you share, what you project in your mind, what you see, you perceive. If you're going to think negative of yourself, oh, I've been hit. Oh no, I'm going to lose here. I'm going to get knocked out. Or what do I do? What do I do? Oh no, okay. You roll with your punches. Okay, okay. Maybe I need to back off. Maybe I need to measure a little bit. Maybe I need to stop being so hasty and bring him onto a punch or set up some traps. And I know I'm going to get him here, but that's all right. That's okay. If you approach that in that manner, you obviously got a better chance. But I love the way you shared. Um, I know you've worked with a lot of people, Brendan, and you've done a lot of things in your life, and you've got a lot of experience in what you do, and it shows with the stuff that you do and you share. And I was wondering, maybe you could share with our viewers, if you could share any powerful story or transformation that you've made with a client. You don't have to mention names or anything like that, but something that either the people watching now or looking back and watching this back and enjoy listening to, and perhaps take something away from.
Yeah, I think for me, there's one that stands out, and it's probably the most heart felt moving one for me. As a lady who's actually in her 60s, when we started working together, and like I know she doesn't mind me sharing her story. She's more than happy to, because I won't give out a name, of course, but because it can help other people potentially. So um, she's someone who experienced a lot of, let's say, physical abuse, and some unspeakable things as well happened at a very young age that you wouldn't wish on anybody. And I guess she had extremely low self-confidence, no real concept of self-love, had a lot of un you would say unresolved things. She never really healed from much in her life, and she had a lot to heal from. Um, and I think when we first started working together, she was quite overweight. She was kind of like partially, more than partially, but like giving up on life. And she decided she's gonna slowly eat her way to death. So get the pleasure through the food and slowly, exit, and let her health sort of, decline partly on purpose. Um, yeah, and worked on a lot. We worked on a lot. We worked, honestly, I worked for about 12 months with this woman, so this wasn't like a overnight thing. But she honestly went from someone who had next to, I got her actually to rate, I don't have it right in front of me, but I got her to rate different areas of her life, like for example, confidence, um, meaning, how do you, much do you feel you contribute on a scale of 1 to 10? How would you rate your health on 1 to 10? All these different areas, relationships 1 to 10. And I think maybe four would have been the highest she would have got in any one area, and it was really averaging like twos and threes. It's not sort of not hard to figure why someone might not want to be around if they feel, regularly, like on average, 2 out of 3 confidence, 2 out of 3 in relationships, 2 out of 3, self-love, 2 out of 3 health. Yeah, so we did a lot of work, a lot of work. It was kind of a lot of it was going in, and part of it was like the self-talk stuff, being coming aware of it. What are you doing? How do realizing how it's affecting you? And then we actually did a fair bit of healing work, and going not just going back to things and revisiting, but so a lot of people that do healing work kind of don't actually define what does it mean when you've healed. Like a lot of people can't even sum that up. And for me, that's crucial. If I want to work with somebody, can you sum up what we're doing together? What's the end result? And if you can't, I probably won't work with you. So for me, with the healing stuff, you can't ever change the events. The events, you can change how you perceive them, right? But the events happened. But you can only change like how you perceive it, the meaning you give it, and the emotion that you attach around it.
That's correct.
That's it.
I was just thinking that, Brendan, the trauma, anything that's happened in your past, any event, just like you said, you assign a meaning to it, and you give that a name. And anytime that something similar comes up, you get triggered. And it's incredible that we all do it, and we're all guilty of it. And there's in the pit of every one of us, there's something that underlining thing that can trigger us. But
Yeah.
keep sharing, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and also one really powerful thing as well, if you've been hurt by a lot of people, it's easy to, like, if you haven't done any, this woman had done no inner work, really. She's seen she's seen therapists and stuff like that, but they would, basically let her talk, and they never really, would got down to anything after years. She been on, I think, various prescriptions over the years for anti-anxiety, depression. Um, it's actually like she had PTSD. Like if her phone rang, she would, you know, um, she would like her nervous system would jolt. Not every time, but a lot of the time. So definitely PTSD reactions to small noises and stuff like that. But yeah, so we got her like not just to go back to the event, but for me, one of the most important things is to get people to understand that we're all worthy of love, no matter what, no matter what you've done, no matter who didn't love you the way you needed, or what stages, or whatever. Like, we're all worthy of love, and actually got some experiences where you get the person and they actually feel that. Into what you know intellectually doesn't change your life. It's what you feel and embody. You got to have that experience to actually know. So, various things through breath work, meditation, many different things, and you actually have that experience of being pure unconditional love. Like you feel complete love and joy for no good damn reason, and know that that's actually your birthright. Even if you never felt that before, it's possible for anybody. And then now you know that you can start to love yourself. And instead of like having all these stories and conditioning running through that I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy of love, because maybe other people might have actually told you that in your life. Maybe you just told yourself that because of the way you interpreted, the lack of support or the mean things people did, or whatever it is. You can actually start to have that experience, and then you can go back. And when these thoughts come up, this internal dialogue comes up, you know, teach yourself to be sort of triggered to remember, hang on, I'm not going to run this. I'm not going to do this to me anymore. And again, I'm all about empowerment. What, like, if something that happened 10 years ago is still affecting you to this day, it's the cause is what happened back then, but the source of the problem is what you're doing now. It's how you're using your internal resources. It's the dialogue, it's the emotions you're doing. We don't necessarily get attacked by emotions. You do it. Like, I'm not trying to make light of anybody's issue, but a lot of people will talk about, and I've had anxiety, depression, all that stuff myself. So I'm not, just pointing fingers or looking down at all. But a lot of
We
people,
suffer
yeah, my
in
anxiety
silence.
attacked me. I'm like, where did it come from? It come from within you. You're creating it. You're doing this pattern, and there's a lot of power in realizing that instead of being a victim. Like, it just happened to me, and I don't know. There's nothing I can do about it.
It's they suffer in silence. It really is so sad. I was just going to interject, but and say that I was watching this thing, a documentary, and the guy asked the patient, "When was the last time you danced?" And she just looked at him. He said, he didn't say nothing. He said, "When was the last time you sang?" And she just looked at him. And then he turned around and said, "When was the last time you smiled?" And she just looked at him. And he said to her, "Do you know that laughter, dancing, singing is one of the best forms of medicine, you know?" And you know what? Like anybody suffering from any form of trauma, and usually when someone suffers from something like you're sharing, like this woman, this poor woman at the time, and I'm sure she's probably benefited a lot from your work, and she's I want to ask you where she is now because obviously you need to finish what you were saying, but for anybody, even somebody who's got their shit together or somewhat got their shit together, it's so important. It's such an important part of your day because it releases endorphins inside the body. And these endorphins are so healthy for our energy levels. We talk about energy magnetic field. We talk about our internal representation there, but it's such a huge and a healthy stimulus. But where is this woman now? How is she doing? And
Yeah, so within that year, it's probably about 10 months in. I think she had lost 20 kilos of body weight. She went from not really moving at all, you know, to at the start walking. Let's say I don't know, half the block or walking the block was just where we started. But there's a lot going on in this. It wasn't just the healing. It was like a lot of building new patterns, learning some about food and nutrition. But so yeah, she started
so did
walking
you
by little by
did
little.
you you've trained people before, like physical training, like personal training and all that, Brendan?
Not officially. Like I'm not a personal trainer, but I've learned enough to about nutrition and just basic stuff that to help somebody to like I would never call myself a personal trainer, but I can
Sure.
help somebody go from zero, to something. I can get the ball moving, that's for sure. Um, yeah, so she had a huge body transformation, and she's gone on and lost a lot more actually. I think the total now is let me see if I can remember. I can't remember the exact figures, but she was up over it was about 115 kilos when we first started working together, and she's about 5'6". So that's a decent
It's
amount to
big.
carry. And then I believe she actually got to it was either I think it was either like 82 or 80. Um, so that's a lot to let go of and move around, a lot freer and easier. But that's just the external, and the external is really it's like the symptom that's what everyone sees, and they think that she's that much
I-
happier, but it's been because of releasing everything, because she's stops the self-loathing, stop bashing herself up, learn to negotiate her triggers and go from like a victim mindset to I'm in charge, I can do this. And again,
It's
that's
incredible how you let go of one and the other one, everything comes together. It's like it just balances out so much better. And it's like psychology's got so much to do with it, That's why I'm so fascinated, and I know you probably very passionate about, and so is Nadia, with behavioral science and everything that accompanies uh, that, and how healthy it is for the human body to kind of understand behavioral science.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like the patterns you get stuck in. Like if you, for example, anxiety or something, you look at what you do with your body when you're really anxious. If somebody's that has a pattern, that's a part of their nervous system that they're constantly tapping into, that fight or flight, that affects your digestion, your healing, it affects everything. Like, and it's a lot of energy you're spending doing that you don't have for other stuff. Like, there's a,
And you know the really interesting thing, and I think it's some of the courses that you and I did, and so did Nadia, and we all know about this. But when somebody gets to that state, 30% of their intelligence, or up to 50% of the intelligent, rational view and intelligent, is just wiped out. And it's very hard for them to make rational views on things and rational decisions. And this happens a lot. You say somebody getting punched in the ring and that, and they're not able to contain and be composed in that. They get stressed out and they panic, and they, because I've trained a lot of guys that have had anxiety and stuff, and they have a lot of anxiety before the fight. I had this one particular guy that I was recently preparing for, and I was on the phone to him 2 days ago. He represented Australia at the Olympics for rowing, and he was on the show with us when we did our first Zoom. Alex Winwood, and he represented Australia for rowing in the under 21s. And when they went to Shanghai last year, they came seventh in the 4 or 5 kilometer sprint, and they came, I think, fourth in the little sprint. And in the, I think it's a 500-meter sprint or something like that. Anyhow, Australia ended up coming second in the long race in the 4,000 meters, and they came first in the 500-meter sprint, which was a huge transformation from what they did last year. And he said to me prior to going into the event that he had anxiety, he was anxious. And I said, "Tell me what you've got. Do you have anxiety or are you anxious?" And we sat down and went over it. And it turned out that he happened to be more anxious than anything. And I said, "Well, great." And he said, "How can that be great? The boys are laughing at me." I said, "Listen, mate, when I was anxious, it meant for me I couldn't wait to get out on stage to perform that aerobic routine, or I couldn't wait to get into the ring because I had these nervous butterflies. I was so uh, animated and just wanted to get in there. I didn't want to sit behind stage and that before the guy called me out. I just wanted to get out there. And it's great being anxious. Maybe we need to turn that into a positive." And he thought about it. We did a bit of work with, behavioral science on it. And when he went to Shanghai, I think, I know that he's one of the four boys, but he was the leader of the four, and he was able to motivate the boys in the way that we spoke about, in the way that he wanted to, and they finally got second and first. So I'm not saying it's because of me, but really the way you see yourself internally really has a lot to do with the way the world sees you externally.
Yeah, that's really good. But that's awesome story, man. That's good. I'm sure you definitely played a part, part in helping him be at his best. I think a huge thing is like resourcefulness, right? Like whatever happens, whatever's happening externally, internally, you use it. So a lot of people don't realize, and I wish I knew this when I was a lot younger, fear and excitement are very close and very similar. So if you're feeling fear and you're like, this isn't serving me, and then you start to like sort of resist the fear, you're trying to get rid of it, or you're trying to, and it's just coming stronger. One of the best things to do is just turn to excitement. So literally, what if I felt excited? Like, what if I turn this into like this adrenaline into like yes, you know what I mean? Like again, changing the self talk,
Mindset. Yes.
smile on your face instead of panic, and then all of a sudden you're just excited. And nobody even knows that you're fearful either if you're worried about that.
Brendan, it's so good listening to what you have to share tonight, and we'll have to catch up sometime, anytime you're around town or I'm your way. Obviously, people watching this back and watching this now, and if any of our viewers want to learn more about the great work that you do, how can they get a hold of you or get in contact with you or learn more about the things that you've shared
Uh,
tonight?
yeah, I think the best way is probably just to reach out on either Instagram or Facebook, and you can just send me a message, say and ask me anything you want. I'm happy to help anywhere or any way I can. Yeah, just if you have any questions, queries, connect, message. I'll do my best to help and add value where I can.
What's your Instagram and what's your Facebook? I'm sure people would like to know. We're gonna have somebody bring it up on the screen when we share this. Can
Yeah.
you share any ways for people to contact you, like Instagram, Facebook, maybe a number or anything you feel comfortable with?
Yeah, so Instagram is brendanharris.true.power, True Power Unlocked being a company and the course. And Facebook is just Brendan Harris, and you should see, if you get the right one, you go in, you'll see the banner's got that same logo you can see on the screen there, that man doing that
Yeah, I
post.
love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably the best way. The website is under construction at the moment, so it's not much help in the next few days if someone goes there.
Now that's thanks for sharing it with us, Brendan. Awesome chat with you tonight. I'm looking forward to catching up more and learning more about what you do and what you've been up to, because every time I speak to you, you've done something and you're doing something new, and we're all working on stuff, which brings us to this point. Nadia and I have been working on a couple of great retreats. We've got the footprint retreats, which we've run two this year, and the Honey and Handsome retreat, which we're working on. We haven't set a date. We're supposed to be running it on the 16th of November. So that's not completely locked in right now. But the Honey and Handsome retreat is a retreat through which is for couples to help them rejuvenate, come together, and experience an amazing day together. And with that, build connection and so much more. So if anybody out there wants to learn more about the great programs that we're running, shoot us a message. I'm sure Nadia or Temp will leave you with all the details that you need to uh, look at, and the landing page that you can click on and get all the information from. But Brendan, last week we interviewed a guy, a phenomenal guy by the name of Phil James McDonald, who was a world record holder, and he was a open ocean kayak elite sportsman who did it for I think about 20 years. A life coach, phenomenal guy that was really knowledgeable in what he did, and he had a unique outlook on life. But some of the stuff that he was sharing towards the end of the session, he was talking about his experience as a child growing up, a little similar to what you did and what you'd experienced. I think with boys, we experience similar stuff, but at some point, that the story varies a little bit, and we become who we are, don't we?
That's it.
It really an impact on our trajectory. I mean, like, I think to myself, why the hell did I get involved with boxing? What sort of validation did I need to get involved with boxing? Because, when you look at boxers, most boxers, you look at their backgrounds, a lot of them have had some form of trauma or some childhood needs that were not met. You know, a lot of them have tried team sports and stuff like that, and they just didn't feel like that suited them. And I know for myself, because my twin brother and I used to play soccer a lot at high level. My older brother played for Australia. He represented Israel at the Maccabee Games twice, where he captained the Australian soccer team. But I remember this one significant particular time where my brother and I sat after a grand final, my twin brother Eldad and I, and we were crying, sitting on the gutter, because we felt that we played our hearts out and the rest of the team didn't. And from that point onwards, I really felt that team sports wasn't for me. Like, I mean, sure, I missed being social and the camaraderie, the support that you got from one another and hanging out and being like working as a team and that. But what I realized as an individual athlete when I competed in competitive aerobics and boxing, that took responsibility for my actions more. And I held myself responsible for my wins, for my losses, and for everything that I did. And I was able to grow a lot better from it. I mean, that's just my view. It's not everybody's, but I thought I'd share that with you tonight. And I don't know, what's your view? I'm sure you played a lot of sports, Brendan.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, yeah, I agree a little bit. Definitely, I'm interested in peak performers as a whole. So, and sports in particular, combat sports, boxing is it's very interesting to watch and it's very exciting. And there's so many interesting characters. And yeah, 100%, there's so many, the backstories is like, it makes perfect sense why they wanted to be really tough
Yeah.
and really trust other people and want to rely on other people so much, right? Um, and I think. Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about knowing that it's all up to you. So if you fail, you can't point any fingers. It's you that didn't do the work. It wasn't someone else on the team, you know? Um, and you get like everything you earn as well, you know what I mean? Like all that effort you put in, it's all yours. It's not like someone else could steal the glory from your team if you do happen to win. They can't, it's all up to you. I think there's good in both. Kind of made me think
I
about other
love
sports
I,
figures.
I love team sports, Brendan. I love and I miss it. I really do. But I think in all of us, when we're talking about our internal representation, I think at any given point, even now, there's some form of conversation going in each and every one of us's head. We could be at work working, we could be at the gym training, sitting on the bike, or we could be shadow boxing, we could be doing jump rope, we could be hitting the bag, could be doing anything. But the conversation in your head, that conversation, the ability to be mindful and control your mind, the ability to master that, those moments during competition, those moments are special. And it's a secret ingredient that comes and goes. I noticed when I was competing, especially in aerobics, I wanted to repeat the same routine before I walked out, before I competed. I wanted to have the same prayer, the same stretches, the same warm up. And I realized that's a secret ingredient. That secret ingredient of how you see yourself, how you see your routine, how you project yourself. Let alone every piece of music was different, every routine was choreographed differently. So I know they say there's different strokes for different folks, but every moment has its own unique needs. And I think the better athlete that you become, or the better knowledgeable um, person that you become in anything that you do, whether you're an artist or whether you're a performer or anything like that, the better you understand that, the better performer and the more successful you become.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really exactly like flows on with what we are talking about earlier, with like understanding the routine you have for confidence, but you like broke it down to a much larger, a whole thing, what is your winning routine? Like every little part of it, it all helps make sure you do the next part right. Even if someone else
Yes,
might, it doesn't matter. You can do something different, eat something different, or whatever, but you keep it all in, it keeps you in that groove, right?
yes. I think I'm gonna go for a little bit off subject because I'm glad like Nadia's recording. So I wanted to talk about something that I spoke about earlier on. It was energy magnetic fields, if it's okay, Brendan.
Yeah.
Um, the discussion of energy magnetic fields for me is it's one that I'm really passionate about because first of all, I think at any given point, any one of us can radiate energy for at least 8 feet. So this is really most evident when you're, for example, sitting in a room and there's no one in the room with you, and before you know it, a person comes into the room and the energy changes in that room. I know I felt it today when I was at the gym by myself and I was just stretching, and then all of a sudden clients came in and the whole energy in the room changed. And that all had to do with the energy magnetic fields from those people coming in. And it wasn't 100 people coming in, it was only two or three people, but the energy changed. And it's really interesting that at any given point, whenever there's distractions or any interferences, like for example, um, it could be noise, it could be somebody cutting you off while you're in traffic, it could be someone yelling at me, it could be an argument, it could be just other indirectly stress of having to pay bills or having an essay to fill out or having deadlines at work to make and stuff like that, that really interact with your energy magnetic fields. And as a result, they drain you. And before you know it, you're depleted. And I've done my research for a very long time on what really helps us recover, rejuvenate, charge our batteries with our energy magnetic fields in our bodies. And I'm sure you've heard about this. Getting good quality deep REM sleep is so important for our body. It's so important for us to rejuvenate, to rest, recover, and be in a parasympathetic state is so important. And which leads me to this, resetting your vagus nerve. And there's so many multiple ways of doing it. I do it two or three, four different times a day. I gargle water, I hum, I do some various techniques, um, meditation, ice baths, cold showers, all to reboot your computer. But there's so many different ways to just reignite and get you in the right frequencies. So our bodies are firing on all cylinders. And the reason I brought this topic up, Brendan, is when we spoke about competitions. And I think when I look back at why I was able to do okay or good in sport and win a couple of titles and have my own 5 minutes of fame or whatever, or 10 seconds of fame or whatever you might call it, is because even as I was working as a pastry chef, and I was one hell of a boring workmate to have because I would come in, do my job, see you guys, and I'll take off. Because all I had on my mind was training before work, training after work. So I'd save my energy, and everything in my day was focused on those moments. That day, the most important part of the day was exercising and training. And I think for to be blunt, sometimes you need to be that selfish to be successful. I know it's unsocial and I know that it's probably not the best behavior to have, but if you have a look at top sports people, top performers and musicians, I guarantee you earlier in their career in that they've had to be that way. And I think this is what has worked for me in the past. And since becoming a parent and having my own business and not competing anymore, I've been able to see life a little bit different. And I don't do the same. But I just thought I'd share that because I do feel that that's what worked for me.
Yeah, I think there's an element, there's a certain amount of selfishness that even if you don't want to be the best in the world at something, there's a certain amount of selfishness you need to excel just in life. I always say you teach people how to treat you. So if you don't have enough selfishness, so for example, we meet some beautiful people that are very, very giving souls, and people are more than happy to take, because they
Mm.
don't have enough selfishness to to pull back,
Stop.
to be assertive, um, or they don't have their own direction. They don't have something like a goal is a form of selfishness. If it's I want this, that's a form of selfishness, right? If you don't even have that, then you just kind of drift and go with it. But I 100% agree with you need a certain amount of selfishness to be successful. And if your goal is actually to help other people as well, then it's maybe you could still call it selfishness. But if you're like gonna say, okay, these people here are gonna not enjoy working with me or not enjoy, the fact that I don't want to socialize, but what I'm building to is gonna serve far more people. So sometimes you have to like pick and choose like how you want to serve, how you want to show up. And yeah, maybe these people don't love me, they think I'm selfish, but down the road, these people are going to benefit from what I'm doing today.
And I'll see it differently. Brendan, so good talking to you and making more connection with you every time I speak to you. And everybody that we have on this show, every time we speak to them, and we just build a connection. And it's so amazing. I'm sure we're going to catch up again on another Zoom. To all the viewers, thanks for watching us. Have an amazing week. We look forward to seeing you next week. Next week, we've got Beck May coming in, and she's a neural transformation therapist. She's a timeline therapy coach, and she's also a life coach that has worked with many people, with many ladies, and she's got a great story to share with us. So we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. Take care, have an amazing night, and we'll see you soon.